is going to be a quick video on how I do the pour-in method of winterizing a 1980 Ski Nautique. Okay, so I haven't had the boat running for a while. What I'm going to do is I've got the water hose hooked up to it, so it's got water running through when I start this up, just like you would anytime you're starting one of these boats up in your driveway. I'm going to run it for a bit just to warm it up, and then I'm going to basically pull the spark arrestor off the carburetor, add some anti-fog to the carburetor just for the winter, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so there's a different opinions on how to do that, but basically some people say spray it until the engine dies, but you could hear how it was starting to kind of miss and stuff as it was filling the chambers of the carburetor. This is just an engine storage spray, or it's a fogging oil. Pick it up at any auto parts store. The next step is we're going to open up the drains and let the water drain out of the engine, and then just add the antifreeze. Okay, so I believe that there are 4 drains that we have to undo to release the majority of the water. There's a couple on the back of these exhaust exchangers, and then exhaust manifolds, and then there's a couple on the bottom of the block. So I'm going to bring the camera in, I'll show you them, and what tools you'll need, and then we'll get to doing it. Okay, so the 2 on the bottom of the exhaust manifolds are right here. You can see mine has these brass adapters, make it a little bit easier to do, but so I should be able to just loosen this piece here and it should drain out. Let's give that a shot. I'm using a 9/16 wrench. Now, depending how old your engine is and things like that, sometimes this will plug up a little bit with rust and you may have to open it up a little more, but we'll let this drain out. Then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, here's the other side. I'm just going to loosen this one, and you can see it's a little bit slower to drain out. So after it drains, we may have to remove this larger piece as well, just to see if there's any rust holding up in there. But now let's move on to the bottom drains. Okay, so on the driver's side of the engine, we're going to be going down underneath here, and you can see that let's see here, that brass plug there, that's what we're going to remove. It is a 1/4 inch Allen wrench. I'm going to be using a socket drive, and once we get that loosened up, it should have water releasing out of there as well. So let's give it a try. So you can see quite a bit of water pours out of there. That's probably one of the main drains there. So we're gonna let that flow, and I'll show you how it's on the other side. Okay, so now here we are on the passenger side. So on my boat, I've got it set up so I've got this kind of hose running to the rear of the boat for a shower, and that's connected through the water channels there, so it gets warm water from the engine. I've already loosened this hose clamp here, but so now all I have to do is pull this hose off, and it will also relieve some water from the block here. So there you go. You can see it is flowing fairly well as well. So because I just had this engine running, water's fairly warm, so just be careful. Okay, so back on the driver's side at the heat exchanger or exhaust manifold, I'm going to loosen off this larger piece because this one's draining very slowly, and I think it's probably got a little bit of rust plugged up in there. So let's give this a try here. Yeah, see, you can see what came out of there. Because this is old, there's bits of rust and stuff. We just ended up plugging this out. So I'll clean this out. Now the rest of the water is drained out of there, and we don't have to worry about that freezing up over the winter. Okay, so the next step is to remove this clamp from your, this runs down into the water pump here. So remove this clamp. You may have to pry it up a little bit to get the hose loose, but basically you want to loosen this hose off. And what we are going to do is pour the antifreeze down in through here so that it circulates around into the block. So that's what we're going to start with. It's what you want to use is like an eco-friendly, biosafe antifreeze, because this might, some of it might end up in the lake in the spring. So we're going to try and drain it all out before that, but you never know. So you can use this, which is made specifically for marine boats, or you can, I believe, also use like an RV antifreeze. But I'll start pouring this in and I'll show you what's next. Okay, so you're going to continue pouring the antifreeze in this hose here until you see that it starts to pour out here, just like it is there. As I add more or lift this hose up, it kind of forces it through into the block. So I've got it right full right now. It took about 2 gallons. Let me just top this up here. But yeah, you can see it's pouring out now. So close this back up, and that'll fill the block with antifreeze. The exhaust does not fill up. You can if you're in a really cold climate. I'm in the west coast of British Columbia here, where it doesn't get super cold. This is more of just comfort. It doesn't get crazy below freezing for very long here. So if you were in a really cold climate, you could also pull these hoses off and fill the exhaust manifolds off, but they're pretty much empty once you've drained them. I wouldn't worry about it. You can double check by just going back to the rear of the engine there where that drain plug was, and remove those just to confirm that you've got antifreeze draining out of those now and no water, and you should be set. Okay, so that should do it as far as draining the block and filling with antifreeze. Should keep the block from freezing over the winter. A couple last few tips as far as winterizing the boat goes. As I mentioned here, it doesn't get super cold, but it gets really wet. We get a lot of rain through the winter. So what I always do is I've got a crawl space where I can store my interior inside the house, keep it dry for the winter. Just prevents mildew and things like that from happening on the seats. The other thing is, obviously, depending what type of fuel you're running, you want to run some stable gas stabilizer or something through probably the last few times you're out. If you forget to do that, you can always add it now and just let the engine run for a bit prior to doing all of this. But other than that, get it all done. Enjoy your boat next spring. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. We'll see you next time on Analog Generation.